What if all the characters in Squid Game weren't dropped into these deadly games, but instead the zombie apocalypse? Today we're going to find out who survives in our very own undead Squid Game. First and foremost, let's go over our contestants. There are fewer than usual, but I doubt a lot of you wanted us to throw gi-hun's mom into the mix, right? Seong gi-hun, Cho sang-woo, Hwang in-ho, Suitman, Oh il-nam, Kong se-byuk, Hwang jun-ho, Ali Abdul, Ji-young, Jung Jok-soo, player 278, player 212, Byung-gi, Kong No-yul, Thanos, Nam-gyu, Cho Hyun-ju, Seon-nyo, Kim Yong-mi, Im Jong-dae, Kim Jun-hee, Kyung-seok, Park Yong-sik, Jang Gyum-ja, Jong-bae, Se-mi, Min-soo, Kang Dae-ho, Lee Myung-gi, Choi Woo-seok, Mr. Kim, Captain Park, the VIPs. Lastly, given the nature of this video, anything goes. The limitations of Squid Game won't apply here. Whatever allies, weapons, and other resources are at their disposal, they will be permitted to use.
This is an emergency broadcast. By order of the federal government, all citizens must remain indoors. Do not engage with infected individuals. Martial law is now in effect.
The world is in shambles. Who will be ready to fend for themselves through the chaos? Who will be among the apocalypse's earliest victims? And which of them will be both surviving and thriving? Most of the roster of Squid Game has already dealt with some unusually high levels of danger in their life, so we don't see there being a ton of eliminations this round. Characters who served in the military like Cho Hyun-ji, Kang Dae-ho, and Park Jung-bae are in particularly good positions here. These three all had some level of military training and experience, which means they have some of the best survival skills of the whole bunch. The same can be said for Jun-ho, the badass undercover cop who managed to infiltrate the games and nearly take them down from the inside. While he can be overly trusting, as we saw through his association with Captain Park, his stealth and intellect would keep him alive longer than a lot of others, and we know he'd do his best to protect the weaker people too. On a similar note, let's talk about the guys with families to look after. gi-hun, Se-byuk, and Kyung-seok all have people back home depending on them, so they'd be willing to do whatever it takes to survive. There's also Ali Abdul. Since he's so trusting and innocent, and since his family literally appeared only once for like 2 minutes, it's easy to forget this guy is a fully grown man with a wife and a newborn baby. He's got a lot to live for, so he's not going to crumble easily. Speaking of babies, let's not forget about Jung-hee, whose pregnant status means she'd be extra careful. We think that Myung-gi, despite his many faults, would make sure to protect his unborn child. He's not a model citizen, but he doesn't seem like an outright scumbag. Finally, let's talk about the characters with more unconventional, aka illegal, ways of getting ahead in life. Gangsters like Jok-soo, Woo-seok, Mr. Kim, and even the suit man do whatever it takes just to get paid. Imagine how much harder they're gonna work to save their own lives. The front man may be a sick, twisted man, but he's a sick, twisted man with a ton of money and connections. His careful nature would result in him having at least some kind of contingency plan. Finally, as much as we hate to give them even a temporary pass, the VIPs are safe because of how much money they have to fall back on. Disgraced politician Im Jong-dae, aka player 100 in season 2, is not so lucky. Sure, he's done well enough in the games so far, and he has decent people skills, but the thing about zombies is that they don't really care about how much money or charisma you have. They just want them brains. What's more is that while player 100 is in debt, he's still probably ludicrously rich, meaning that he'd be a popular target for some of the more aggressive players like Thanos, or even more underhanded, clever ones like Se-byuk. Can't say we feel bad for him, since even Thanos seems like a model citizen in comparison. Next up is Seon-nyo. One of the most important things in an apocalyptic setting like this one is not being alone. No man or woman is an island, after all, and that's gonna be Seon-nyo's undoing. To put it simply, nobody likes her. Seriously, lots of people, myself included, liked the other annoying middle-aged lady, Han Min-yo, but nobody likes Seon-nyo, and that goes double for the characters in the series. She's way too arrogant to ask for help, and way too unlikable for anyone to offer it anyway. We could totally see her teaming up with Han Min-yo when things got desperate, only for the latter to accidentally trip her up. We only need one comic relief weirdo today. And the last elimination of the round is Min-soo. He's both the most sympathetic elimination this round and the most predictable. The guy's a complete coward and will do a complete 180 however many times it's needed to save himself. I don't hate Min-soo, but I'm happy that his elimination means that my beloved queen Se-mi won't go down like she did last time.
Citizens are urged to seek out a designated military refuge area
get into the good stuff. You're going to need weapons, combat skills, or some combination of both to survive a large-scale apocalypse. So let's take a look at what weapons the characters would use. Some characters prefer to play it simple and relatively safe. While they couldn't be more different in terms of morals and personality, Junho and the Suit Man both seem like the type who'd prefer to use simple yet effective weapons, like pistols. Junho wouldn't kill unless it was necessary, and a lightweight mid-range pistol is the best for the job in that case. As for the Suit Man, he wants to get close enough to enjoy the carnage, so he wouldn't want to keep his distance. Other characters who would like simple weapons are those who are working to protect their families. Ali, Sebyok, and Kyung-seok probably all have access to self-defense weapons in case of a home invasion. Kyung-seok and Ali have emergencies-only shotguns, and on top of being able to use guns, Sebyok would be prepared with a variety of strong close-range weapons. She'd be wise enough to hide whenever possible, but we could definitely see her having pocket knives and pepper spray on hand in case someone got too close for comfort. As for Semi, her ability to blend into the crowd and stick with strong players leads us to believe that she'd prefer more long-distance weapons, like sniper rifles. The same can be said for Kong No-yul, who is crafty and skillful enough to escape from North Korea, wiping out numerous highly trained soldiers in the process. With a daughter back home to protect, she has every reason to mow down as many zombies as possible from a safe distance. That'd be much closer to the whole putting people out of their misery job description that the frontman was supposed to give her, after all. Some characters might be fine even without heavy weaponry, though. Deok-soo is ridiculously physically strong. No doubt he'd prefer more up-close and personal kinds of weapons, like knives and brass knuckles, but those hands are rated E for everyone, and they're strong enough to handle a whole lot of the undead and living alike on their own. As for his lackey, player 278, his strategy began and ended with the philosophy of just shut up and do what the stronger guy says. Deok-soo isn't the type of guy who'd care if his ally was left behind, and since 278 is easily the weaker of the two, we doubt he's making it for long in this round. But why don't we talk about the main man himself, gi-hun. Like Junho, he wouldn't kill except for the sake of protecting himself and others. With experience using Glocks for self-defense and some pretty solid fighting skills, he has a good skill set right off the bat. But then came the finale of Season 2. Here he was able to take one of the guards' machine guns, a German one called an MP5, and got used to using it pretty quickly. Being jaded by the game's true nature and far more careful as a result, he'd definitely choose the MP5 as his primary weapon, as would his military buddies Hyunju, Dongbei, and Daeho. Even though not everyone would want to use weapons, we can definitely see some of the less skillful characters surviving by means of having good connections. Young-mi would survive thanks to her friendship with Hyunju, for instance, and while Young-sik isn't the most impressive competitor in the running, he'll definitely do what he needs to do to protect his mom. As for her, Yoon-ja's resourcefulness tells us she definitely has a stash of shotguns to protect herself and her family with. Even if the shotgun fails, nobody's gonna suspect this old lady having a knife hidden in her hairpin. We could totally see her having a stash of hand grenades lying around somewhere just in case of this oddly specific instance. Captain Park, being a fisherman, probably has some seriously precise aim, not to mention his skills of deception and sabotage. We could totally see him having access to crossbows, harpoons, or even bows and arrows to strike down competition with. Resourceful fighters who can make weapons out of anything, like Sung-woo, would also be in the clear this round. While he'd definitely be smart enough to have a rifle, Sung-woo would definitely also keep his arsenal full of surprises, like knives and maybe even hand grenades. Thanos certainly seems like the type of dude who'd have some kind of illegal weaponry lying around. He seems like the type who would really enjoy the carnage that a full-on machine gun complete with an ammo belt would cause, and wouldn't be too concerned about the innocent casualties it may cause. His buddy Namgyu would stick by Thanos with his own pre-established illegal weaponry, probably a lethal shotgun. He seems like a very don't come to school tomorrow type of dude, so we could see him knowing his way around it. Plus, Thanos has the drugs, so Namgyu isn't leaving him anytime soon. And unfortunately for Myung-gi, the combination of drugs and machine guns would result in Thanos getting that revenge he's been itching for since he got scammed in the first place. Regrettably, the same goes for Jun-hee, whom the would-be crypto mogul was protecting. We aren't 100% sure if Thanos would be willing to off a pregnant woman. We're only like 80% sure. The other guy would definitely do it though.
Anyone wants to hear right now, but I've just been informed we're going off the air. Fitness recommendations from the CDC could mean the difference between life and death. Are you kidding? That's the best they have for...
Alright, so most of these guys can fight. Good for them, but the carnage isn't going to end overnight. Which characters are ready for an apocalypse like this, and which ones are most likely to crack under all the pressure? Right off the bat, Young-gi, better known as the underhanded doctor from Season 1, is a man who knows how to work with what he's given. He'd be extremely valuable as a team medic. We've already mentioned that No-yul would make a great sniper, but she'd also be a great pick for any recon missions that might pop up. If you need a bodyguard, she'd be among the first ones you talk to. But the first one you should talk talk to would be Hyun-ju, whose military expertise and quick thinking makes her a force to be reckoned with. Jung-bae is an even better choice, being a former Marine. Unfortunately, his fellow Marine Dae-ho seems to have a bit more trouble keeping composed in intense situations. In his defense, it seems most likely that he suffers with PTSD, so without slandering him, we just have to say that he's unfortunately failed to protect himself from the hordes of zombies, forcing Hyun-ju and Jung-bae to pick up the slack as their friend unfortunately breathes his last. He fought hard, but that trauma tragically fought harder. Han Min-yo might initially seem like the type of character who'd be an easy elimination in this round if you have no eye for talent. She always has some crazy tricks up her sleeve, from using flaming hot needles for precision carving to using her skills of persuasion to kill the lovers who scorned her. This absolute wildcard probably has all sorts of crazy weaponry at her disposal. If she got her hands on a flamethrower, she'd sure use it. For sure she could convince some of the other, more desperate players to join up with her, especially in such an intense setting. Given her ego, she seems like the type Semi could manipulate from a safe distance. Oil Nam is both a creative thinker and excellent at playing innocent, so we think he's safe among the likes of trusting yet strong-willed players like Ali and gi-hun. As for the depraved VIPs, their money is only worth so much when they themselves are sheltered rich guys without much to offer when society itself is crumbling. But as for the rest of these guys, well, they've been in the Squid Game. That means they have to have some level of survival skill.
You all have fun. I'm going off for a different kind of fun.
So surely they'd be able to fend for themselves, but not by themselves.
Emergency broadcast. The federal government is calling upon all doctors, surgeons, nurses, and civilians with any medical expertise. Your skills are urgently needed. Your country needs you now.
At this point, enough people have died to the point where surviving players are in pretty close proximity to each other. That begs the question of which ones will team up with whom, assuming they can find a group to team up with. Since we know how the characters got along in Squid Game, we already have some idea of how they'll team up in this setting. Let's start with the family unit. This team is composed of characters who want to not only survive, but to keep as many others alive as possible. It's not to say that the other teams are necessarily selfish, but these few have plenty of people in their lives worth protecting, so they're the most likely to team up with others who can say the same. The family unit team is made up of Seong Gi-hun, Jun-ho, Ali Abdul, Kang Se-byo, Kang No-yur, and Park Hyung-seok. Next, we have the Defenders. This is another altruistic team focused on protecting as many innocents as possible. As a result, it's not just made up of particularly strong players, but of players who have nowhere else to turn. On the Defenders team, we have Cho Hyun-ju, Park Yong-sik, his mother Kyom-ja, Kim Yong-mi, Park Jung-bae, Byung-gi, the doctor, that totally sweet innocent old man, Oh-il-nam, and Se-mi. For our third team, we have the characters who are concerned with survival, whatever the cost may be, from a moral standpoint. We'll call this team the Gangsters. Making up this team is Jok-soo, Thanos, Nam-gyu, a very reluctant Cho Sang-woo, a slightly less reluctant Han Min-yo, Woo-seok, and Mr. Kim. Lastly, we have the Supervillains, a team of only two characters, In-ho and Suitman. Two different sides of the evilness spectrum come together and make one of the most formidable zombie defense forces in the running. As for the remaining two, well, while Ji-young initially stuck by Se-byok's side, she was the first to spot the treacherous Captain Park attempting to mow down their team from a distance. After the former took a bullet for her friends, the latter was taken down to avenge her, leaving us with 23 more characters.
This is an emergency broadcast. Armed raiders have been reported in multiple roads and highways, attacking survivors and taking supplies. It is strongly advised to stay armed, avoid unknown routes, and stay in groups.
This round is exactly what it sounds like. Zombies are taking over, and with how many have been infected, the hordes are massive, and they've got enough numbers to overrun the bases of each team. With their final safe spaces breached, let's see how each of the remaining teams do. Let's begin with the family unit. With children, spouses, and or even friends to protect, no amount of zombies will slow this bunch down. Jun-ho is a skilled police detective, which means he'd probably be the first one to spot the various monstrous threats closing in. Since Kang No-yur managed to take down a whole platoon of North Korean soldiers while defecting, not to mention killing her superior officer, we feel like the rest of the team would be really glad to have her on their side. Unfortunately, there is one member of this team who isn't so lucky, Ali Abdul. We hate to do our man Ali dirty again, but the simple fact is that he's too good-natured to not risk his neck for his teammates. He'd trust gi-hun to take care of his wife and child if anything happened to him, and with his brute strength, he's definitely the type who could save gi-hun from a zombie he didn't see coming at the last second. Kyung-seok is also the type of guy who would risk his life to protect the others, trusting that his little girl would be in good hands. As for the defenders, Hyunju and Jungbei's military experience and weapons proficiency would carry the team pretty far. These two would stand back to back, mowing down zombies from both directions. Meanwhile, Gyung-ja and Semi would be good lookouts to let the others know which directions most of the zombies would be coming from. Finally, Byung-gi would be ready to patch up as many non-fatal injuries as he could. With two elderly players in the running, protecting them would be a top priority. In particular, Young-sik would definitely go to bat to protect his mother, which in this game would likely result in an admittedly heroic sacrifice. Young-mi is a lot more likely to hide than to fight, but if Hyunju or Il-nam got targeted by a zombie they couldn't see, we think she'd rush in to protect them to the best of her ability, which, while brave, might not go so well for her. But it'd give Hyunju even more motivation to kick some zombie butt. Finally, we could see Semi as the one who rushes the others to get medical care from Byung-gi. Unfortunately, being the angel that she is, Semi would prioritize getting them help over her own safety. This would cost Semi her life. And Byung-gi, determined to uphold his oath as a medical worker, would give his help to heal the victims. While it wouldn't work out for Young-sik or Young-mi, he would manage to save one other injured player, Il-nam. Great. Look, he meant well, alright? The gangsters are where things start to get really interesting in this round. Since they have a less conventional moral compass, Thanos is the type of guy who'd be thirsting for more power and influence. So with Namgyo's help, we could see him using the Carnage as an opportunity to not just mow down zombies, but to take the considerably stronger Joksu out of the running. Of course, not everyone left in this team's roster is quite so selfish. Sung-woo isn't a good guy by any means, but he isn't the type to prioritize power over the well-being of himself and others. He'd definitely be the most laser-focused on taking down zombies of the bunch, but he'd also be the only one on his team entirely focused on the task at hand, meaning he'd be overwhelmed pretty quickly. As for Han Min-yo, her firepower and spirit would help, but she unfortunately wouldn't get much further. Finally, while Woo Seok and Mr. Kim are gangsters, they're the type who are loyal to their own. Seeing Thanos and Namgyu turn on their teammates would infuriate them. While the four of them would wipe out the zombies and do it well, Woo Seok and Mr. Kim would definitely try and take those two down before they went any further, which, given the latter two's chaotic, unpredictable brand of evil, wouldn't turn out too well. Finally, we have the supervillains, and honestly, let's face it, the front man teaming up with Suit Man was a huge mistake. Yin-ho wrongly assumed that a zombie apocalypse would result in the recruiter prioritizing survival over killing people for fun, and it did for about 5 minutes before Suit Man got bored of how easy killing all those zombies was, so he decided to target the front man, just to switch things up.
Densely infested zones in the southwest will be firebombed at 0600 hours Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. All remaining citizens in the affected areas are urged to evacuate immediately. This is your final warning. May God watch over us all.
Factions have formed, the world is collapsing. All that remains is one simple question: who is willing to do anything, no matter how depraved, to survive? Who will betray allies, attack innocents, or pillage homes, all for the sake of self-preservation? Oh, sorry, that's 2 questions. Anyway, while they did lose some players, the family unit team is by far doing the best right now. Gi-hun, knowing fully well how bleak the situation is, would definitely be coming up with a strategy by now. Being an old friend of Jungbei's, he could count on him to help in said plan, as even most people can't be trusted by now. As for Se-byok and No-yur, they'd be on pillaging duty. In other words, going after as many weapons, as much food, and other resources as they could find. They wouldn't want to steal from other humans, of course, but they would if it came down to it. That's what separates them from Thanos and Namgyu, who'd be more than happy to pillage some innocent folks for their food, weapons, and maybe even drugs. Speaking of drugs, Namgyu made the mistake of snatching Thanos' secret stash, which earned him a serious beating that turned out to be lethal thanks to all the stress. But his buddy's betrayal didn't stop Thanos from raiding Hyunju and Gyumja's hideout. Hyunju, of course, prioritized protecting Gyumja, who was in grief over the loss of her son. Due to both of them being reasonably sick of everything, Thanos was regrettably able to take both of them down. First, shocking Hyunju by taking out the sweet old lady, then killing her while she was distracted. Man, in the right setting, this dude is weirdly terrifying, isn't he? So is the Suit Man, who didn't even hesitate to kill the seemingly innocent Il-nam. Heck, he didn't even need to be high to do it. After fatally wounding the old man, Gi-hun and Jungbei jumped into action to take this monster out before he could hurt anyone else, only to find out he had more weapons than he'd let on. Thankfully, just when things seemed hopeless, Junho landed a surprise shot right in the Suit Man's head, ending his depraved recruitment business once and for all.
Of the United States.
My fellow Americans, it's bad, very bad. The worst anyone's ever seen. But let me tell you, we had a great run, truly incredible. If you're hearing this, you're one of the last survivors. Maybe the best survivors. Many of saying this, and if you see a zombie, just remember, not a lot of brain activity. Much like my former opponent, Sleepy Joe. All right, good luck, everybody.
The world is overrun with zombies and is a shell of its former self. Of the many characters we focused on today, only 6 remain. gi-hun, Kong Se-byuk, Jun-ho, Kang No-yur, Thanos, Park Jung-bae. With these 6 remaining among the chaos, alliances are crucial. gi-hun and Jun-ho are both itching to stop the zombie uprising and save the world before it's too late. Meanwhile, No-yur and Se-byuk are both more motivated by the need to reunite with their own families, no matter who might get hurt along the way. As for Jung-bae, he's conflicted between these two sides, but thankfully, these 5 don't really have a reason to start major conflicts with each other. Thanos, on the other hand, is not conflicted, as his only ultimate loyalty is to himself and his ego and his loyal fans, of course, many of whom are still teamed up with him, even if it's just for clout. To make this finale more interesting, we're going to give each survivor a personalized pack-a-punch weapon upgrade to up their chances of survival. gi-hun is up first. Unable to ignore the horrors he's witnessed throughout this apocalypse, not unlike his role in the series, he wants a weapon that's capable of making his life a little more normal and safe. So with that, we present gi-hun with the Ender's Pistol. And not unlike the starter pistol used to kick off the horse races he's been known to gamble on, this weapon transforms his old habit into something more heroic. It can't be fired particularly fast, but it makes up for that with its simple usability. Compressed air bullets are fired at unfathomable speeds with enough force to cut through the toughest metals known to man. In other words, zombies and villains alike won't have a chance. Kong Se-byuk is next, and she's more than willing to do whatever it takes to survive and get back to her family. So we present her with the Million-Degree Blade. Se-byuk seems more like an up-close and personal type of fighter. We felt that a self-heating sword fits her because she's so hot. No, just kidding. Because of that one scene where she scalds the social worker with coffee. Her resourcefulness and willingness to use physical pain to gain the upper hand tell us she'd enjoy using this sword, which contains technology that gradually heats up the metals until the sword glows, allowing her to slice through opponents with ease. Slicing it cools the blade down so that the heat doesn't affect Se-byuk adversely, which means she'll need to be close to the action in order to stay cool. Jun-ho, being a detective, would probably prefer something less flashy than a glowing sword. Considering his specialty in stealth and observation skills, he wants something that allows him to protect others from a safe distance. Introducing the Sentinel's Fury Assault Rifle, a weapon customized to fit Jun-ho's tactical prowess. This rifle's not just any firearm, it's a masterpiece of adaptability and firepower. Crafted from reinforced alloys and advanced polymers, the Sentinel Fury boasts a modular design that allows Jun-ho to swiftly switch between sniper and close quarters combat modes. Equipped with an integrated smart targeting system and a holographic display, Jun-ho can precisely pick off targets from afar or swiftly engage in intense firefights. Kang No-yur probably has the most obvious weapon yet, is what I would say if I couldn't see her using just about anything, but we've got something that she'll love. Introducing the Machine Sniper. As a former North Korean soldier who successfully defected to South Korea, Kang No-yur no doubt has plenty of heavy weaponry experience. We're sure that includes machine guns, and we've seen that she's capable of precision sniping, so why not combine them both into one manageable long-distance weapon? It takes a while to load, sure, but with miles of range, precise scopes, and the ability to fire hundreds of shots per minute, it's well worth the time it takes to get it ready. Next up, we have Thanos. Actually, no, I was wrong with No-yur. This guy has the most obvious weapon in the running, the Infinity Shotgun. Imagine a shotgun unlike any other, crafted with the infinite stones intricately embedded throughout its design. Each shell is meticulously packed with 3 times the usual amount of gunpowder, complemented by a vibrant infusion of colorful glitter. The shotgun's barrels shimmer with cosmic hues, reflecting the chaotic beauty of the infinite stones. When fired, it unleashes thunderous blasts that not only deliver devastating force, but also transform the battlefield into a dazzling spectacle of radiant colors and shimmering glitter, ensuring nobody gets in the way of his greatness. Last but not least, we have Park Jung-bae. This brave Marine may be nervous, but he's more than willing to give his all to protect his friends, so let's give him something a little more flashy to match his boisterous personality. We present Jung-bae with the Marine Mayhem Missile Launcher. This bad boy is your standard missile launcher, complete with rockets that pack enough explosive punch to kill even the toughest zombies in one strike. But wait, there's more! They also explode with bursts of glitter and confetti for the sake of distracting enemies, allowing Jung-bae's friends some further support. And at last, it's time for the final battle. With Jun-ho and Jung-bae on their guard in the background, gi-hun charges in to wipe out as many zombies as possible. For the time being, that's also Se-byuk's priority, with No-yur sniping from the background. These two groups have no reason to be at each other's throats right now, so despite slightly different priorities, gi-hun and Se-byuk are more than happy to team up. The size of Se-byuk's blade would enable her to wipe out hordes of zombies at once, and once a bunch were lined up, gi-hun would be able to do some serious damage on his own. Unfortunately, so would Thanos. In fact, he'd be able to do the most damage to the zombies out of anyone, and despite having an army of fans backing him up, his lack of concern when using the Infinity Shotgun would end up destroying not just the zombies, but losing him some allies as well. But if it makes you feel any better, the stack of bodies would be covered in glitter. And unfortunately, his kill streak isn't over. It's this type of thrill-seeking that would cost gi-hun his life. As Thanos closed in on him and Sabyok, gi-hun jumped over the young woman to shield her from a blast of gunpowder and pink glitter, losing his life in the process. But saving Sabyok from anything beyond some severe injuries. Thankfully, Junbae came in clutch to avenge gi-hun by firing a precise shot at Thanos, tricking the SoundCloud legend into walking somewhere nice and open. This cooperation between gi-hun's friends successfully avenged our main character, wiping Thanos out like he was half of humanity. Now all that remains are the straggling zombies. Sabyok would continue to fight them despite her injuries, but tragically she'd get caught by one of the zombies. And in a last-ditch effort to save the girl gi-hun died to protect, Junbae would get bitten as well. This would tragically force No-Yul and Junho to do the whole putting miserable people out of their misery thing, wiping out her now zombified allies and cementing her as one of just 2 survivors in this apocalypse, which is still more than these guys are used to, at least. It's not a happy ending by any means, but while there were numerous casualties, 2 heroes stood above the rest. Hwang Jung-ho and Kang No-Yul have survived this apocalypse, meaning they get to rest until season 3. Yay!